The Chicago Bears are signing former All-Pro safety Kevin Byard to a 2-year deal. They got their Eddie Jackson replacement. Do we like the deal? Do we like the terms? We'll talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us. Per Josina Anderson, the Chicago Bears are signing former Eagles, former Titans, All-Pro safety Kevin Byard to a 2-year deal. Ian Rappaport is reporting that the deal has a base of $15 million on it. This is an interesting move to me for the Chicago Bears, not because I think that Byard is a bad player. Let's start with the player himself, right? Yes, absolutely having a bit of a down year. I see a lot of people talking about he's washed, it's over, different things like that. Why would the Bears go out and make this signing? But I think you also have to take into account the situation that he's in. As long ago as 2022, 17 games played, a guy who has been a fairly healthy player in his time in the NFL as well, really only missing, I want to say, one game this year. He might have missed his first game this season based on what I'm looking at here, which is very, very interesting. But outside of that, right, like you look at a guy who's been very healthy, who for the most part, while those defenses were good in front of him, the Tennessee defense is the ones you attribute him to, absolutely. While that defensive line was good in front of him, you saw that production, 5 picks in a season, 4 picks in a season in 2022, had 5 picks back in 2019, had 4 picks back in 18, had 8 picks back in 17. That's kind of what you would think, you would hope that you're getting here from Kevin Byard. And yes, we have seen the production drop off from last season. You're paying a guy for last season. I think that kind of makes this a tough deal. I think that maybe you got him in at a little bit of an overpay here, but that's what free agency is when you go out and you try to address how you're fixing that hole that Eddie Jackson leaves the Chicago Bears with by letting him go and saving some money. But you had a little bit more cap to play with, and the safety position is something where you needed to invest. I think that this is more interesting though, because there's some names out there that you kind of looked at and you thought, okay, maybe a little bit more long term, maybe a little bit more production last season that you could have gone out and gotten, but maybe not at this price. $15 million base. Interesting number there over the next 2 years. But I mean, here's kind of what it comes down to me. Do we see the production return when the situation changes? You look at that Philadelphia situation, everything that went on with the coordinators last year, like that defense kind of gave up. That defense kind of bottomed out itself almost last season. And, you know, the team just did not look the same once they did everything that they did with the coordinators last year and everything that went into that. So I think that seeing a change of scenery, seeing a consistent pressure from that defensive line will help him as well. Hopefully that defensive line able to take the next step, and realistically that's where you want to see the Bears go out and invest their money in, right? That's where you want to see the Bears go out and put their funds at, because you know, once you do that, now you're talking about, okay, we not only have more money in our defensive line, but that makes all of our DBs better. That makes all of the contracts that we paid for the linebacker positions and stuff like that better. That puts you in a better situation. And so I'm not mad at this deal per se. I'm more skeptical of this deal than anything, because I think there were some other interesting names that you could have gone out and gotten. We'll talk about some of those coming up. But first, I want to know how you guys feel about this move. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you like the Chicago Bears signing Kevin Byard to a 2-year deal with a $15 million base in this contract? That's all we know as of right now about the contract. If you see me keep looking down, it's because I'm trying to see if we're getting any updates on maybe any of the details there, but it seems like that's kind of what we have right now. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Here's the part that makes this interesting and why I'm somewhat skeptical on the move. Not to say that I think Byard will be a bad player. I think when you look at him on this defense, the one thing that you love about the signing is he's a player you can put back there and you don't have to worry about. He's a player that if I put him next to Jaquan Brisker, which all of these names would have benefited from, right? Jaquan Brisker is able to do so much that when you look back there and you got Kevin Byard on the other side, you say, okay, well, you can kind of do the ball hawk thing again. You can go back to focusing on taking the football away. You can go back to being the picks guy that we've known you to be throughout your career. Like, that's the guy that we're hoping to pay. 28 interceptions in his career to this point. That's the guy we're hoping we're getting back here by adding pressure and putting you next to a safety that you don't have to worry about. But I do think there were some names out there that gave you more production last season. Quandre Diggs, to me, is a name that I was really looking at. Maybe you're not able to get him as cheap as you're able to get a Kevin Byard in here on. But realistically speaking, right, you're not worried about paying that position if you feel solid at that position. Now, maybe this is again, I'm skeptical on this. I'm not saying he's bad. I just want to see, right, if we're basing it off of last season, is he going to bounce back to what he was the season before we go out here and commit this big money? But now the money's committed. We got to wait and see. And that's going to come with investing more in the defensive line. You know that they got to do that as well. But I thought Quandre Diggs was a great name that you could have went out there and gotten. Older, right? 31 years old, 30, 31, somewhere in there. But you saw the production that he was still able to put forth. And then Xavier McKinney was a young long-term option. But now you're investing long-term at the safety position. And I think here's the part that you have to look at with that as well. The Bears know that there's still going to be holes that they need to fill. You want to get through this for a couple of years. You want to draft a guy who is a young player who you can bring up through the ranks. I wouldn't be surprised if we still see the Bears try and acquire some more draft capital to go out and find a young safety that they can put back there next to Jaquan Brisker. This gives you a couple of years of option to be able to go out there and find that guy. And they've done a good job finding DBs. I mean, you look at the rest of this DB room. They signed Jalen Johnson. Love the fact that we got that deal done. The rest of it is Ryan Poles guys, Jaquan Brisker, Tariq Stevenson, Kyler Gordon, and now you add Kevin Byard into that. Like, to me, this is not a bad backfield at all for the Chicago Bears. This is, to me, a DB room that still looks as deadly as we thought last year's DB room was going to look, but it all comes with providing that pressure. Now, the biggest thing that the Chicago Bears need to be able to go out there and do is get a deal done for either an edge rusher, or one of those big guys in the middle. The tough part about those big guys in the middle is you're starting to see those names come off of the market and go to the teams that they were once on. Justin Metabike back on with the Ravens, right? Chris Jones getting a massive deal. We don't even know what that deal is yet, right? $95 million in guarantees. That's all we know. We don't even know what the full deal is yet. So that's going to be ridiculous. I'm guessing on the Chris Jones deal, probably 170. I would think you let him reset the market. You might be talking about 170 million over 5 for Chris Jones. That's just me. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just 95 million guarantees, guys. And has nothing to do with what the actual contract is. So it could get wild out here if he resets the market on that. And he deserves to, because of the type of player he is. But when you start to see some of those interior guys, the point I'm making here, right? Christian Wilkins is a name that's still on the market. Maybe the Bears go there. But like I said, you look at that pick of Javon Dexter today. I mean, if he can kind of keep the speed with the size that he's been able to gain, he may be a monster. You've heard Yerk talk a ton about how he needs to be Santana Dotson on the watch that Santana Dotson film on the defensive line there. Like, if he's able to add things like that to his game, you may have a monster in the middle on his way. And then you think, okay, well, if that market's a little bit dry right now, if you're not liking some of the names in there, let's look at the edge rushers. The edge rusher market is still very, very lucrative right now, with names like Danielle Hunter still on the market. I mean, like, there's some guys out there that you feel good about bringing in here to Chicago, and we haven't seen those guys get a big chunk of the money just yet. With the news yesterday that the Vikings probably are going to not bring back Danielle Hunter, do you take a chance there? Of course, there's some lower tier names on there as well. Chase Young's, guys like that. Do you reunite that with Montez Sweat? Like, those are the names to me that I would say, you know, you start to look at that edge market and go, okay, I'm willing to commit big money there as well. And that makes everything easier on the guys in the middle that you're trying to develop, on a Zach Pickens who's coming in, right, and trying to go out there. You got a defensive line of Sweat, Bill, Dexter, and maybe you go Danielle Hunter, maybe you go Chase Young, right, like some of the guys that are out there. Or, you know, and that makes your linebackers' lives easier. That makes your DBs' lives easier because now you're getting consistent pressure on the quarterback, especially in those passing situations. But we'll see what it ends up being. I think that this signing of Kevin Byard is not a bad one. I think there were some other names out there, but I just think that now, okay, you go out and you get Kevin Byard, not a terrible signing. Now, how do you make his life as easy as possible? You invest in the defensive line and figure it out there as well. Maybe even through the draft. Maybe, right, if Dallas Turner falls to 9, you take a Dallas Turner, and now you got Montez Sweat and a young option there that is a cheap option, which allows you in free agency to pay guys on the other side. We'll see what the Chicago Bears end up doing, but we'll be covering all here on the Windy City Breeze. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down, one love. It's going to be a long off season. Peace.